Hi, Anti-Society! Welcome back to the Antisocial Planet. Today we are checking out Yeosang Legacy music video, and I'm very nervous to be here. Not just because I love the song, I think the drama of it lends really well to a performance, especially given the visuals that I've already gotten to see with Slide to Me and Skin. Of just the visual storytelling that we're getting has been really good, so I think that it lends very well to translating some of the imagery and storytelling of the song to a music video. But also then you add in the Yeosang, who also lends very well to a dynamic performance. And then I saw the thumbnail, and I remember I saw the thumbnail for this video when it came out. I exited out of YouTube. It was like, nope, it'll probably be fine. I'm not gonna panic at all during this. I don't know why you're worried. I'm not worried. It's gonna be fine. And just this makes me nervous too. I'm like a little bit in denial. I'm going to love this too much. It's fine. This is an incredible image though. Ooh. Oh, the shadows. Oh my god, his hair. Sir? Okay, well, first off, him being in the smoke or dust or whatever, kind of like the ruins, great use of this spotlight and this kind of stark setting. But I also love that one, we have the mirror with the dancers, but also great use of this shadow of the dancers kind of making wings for him, which I think is some great imagery. And then he looked like that when he turned around, and the hair, and it's fine. I think we have the lighter scene and the darker as well. It's just rude that he looks like that. Ugh. Ooh, okay, first off, I'm just remembering how much I love this song. The concept of me getting a song that is just Yeosang vocals. And it's all of the drama, it's all of the cinematic, the theater of it. Love it. Also love that we have this floor work that's happening, right? This change in the levels from having the dancers crouched down before, and now we're having this shift in the levels as we're talking about this moment of desolation. But also we're literally talking about torn wings. We have the wings imagery already. Jesus Christ. Okay, sorry. It's fine. Also love that we have the tear, the wear on his clothing as well. And despite how I feel about the fact that he seems to have taken a card out of some of the other members of ATEEZ books and forgotten how shirts work, the imagery of having this draped fabric on him, I think one leans a little bit more into the kind of classics imagery that we were getting, kind of classic epic stories, mythology things as well. There's a little bit of Icarus imagery with the wings and everything, and having this kind of draped fabric on him, monochrome, it feels a little bit like a nod to that styling or statuesque in some way. And again, if you go into Greek and Roman statues and art and everything, you will also get a focus on the human physique, especially of heroes and stuff. The beauty of human endurance is also through the way that the actual details in the statues and carvings and everything of that. So I understand the styling, even if I have personal feelings about it, and it's not good for my health. My god, beautiful lines. I love that with the wings again, and he's controlling it. Ooh, the lights. Okay, first off, the lights being brought in with the blue, and it's the cold lighting. Again, love the use of the shadows. Look at how good that is, right? Having this backlight is so dramatic and stark. Some of the stuff I was talking about in the way that they set up Skin, right? Where you have this very stark colors because there's this black and white that we're playing with. And you have a little bit of this where we have the lighter scene that we were just switching to before I paused, where there's a different lighting. You have some of the more earth tones to it, and then you have this dark cold lighting, right? So having this very harsh backlight to that is making these really sharp edges on the places where there's shadow and light, but it lends so well to a performance, especially where he's doing all this performance on the floor, because you're getting all of those dynamics of the shadows, and because you have this backlight in the center, the dancers aren't blocking him. The light is going out on these angles, so you're not blocking his shadow on the floor with the dancers being around him, which I think is really great. Also, just having the dancers in these like pillars or almost like bars being caged, the way that they're circling him, right? They're containing him. And given the imagery of the song at this point, I think that's really great. We have the like talking about not bringing him down, and then we get he stands up and we get a little bit more space from the dancers. The little like isolation he was doing even with this, of having the holding, right, of almost like holding on to what motivates him, his passion, his drive, his dream, right? A lot of that goes into like the imagery of this song, containing it, but like the little stops that he's putting in some of these movements to like almost add these little tableau moments within it. But it also adds this kind of stutter to his movements. We have these really beautiful, graceful movements in it as well, and then you get these kind of stuttering ones, or these kind of these harsh stop moments, and there's a little bit of a pause. I think is also the recovery, right? We're talking about a night of howling darkness. We're talking about this like dark night of the soul, this desolation, this emerging from the ashes, right? Like we have at the beginning image of this music video, right? Again, with the blue lighting, with this cold lighting, and having this kind of like stutter to his movements, or unsteady kind of movements to some of it. Very intentional, obviously, with the performance. Feels like someone struggling or recovering, not quite having their footing yet. He's literally like on the ground, right, for this part of the performance. I feel like there's probably like so many things, and I don't want to stay here for an absolute eternity, but already in love with this performance. See, we talk scar and he's like on the floor. Facial expressions too. Ooh, good. Ooh, okay, first off, literally me talking about these movements, and we get a little bit more of a graceful move from him. The backup dancers are doing this kind of, again, like stuttering, jerky movement, different lighting here too. Like I said, like warmer lighting. We have all the fabric kind of in the way, these torn fabric, the burn marks at the edges of it as well. Again, there's a little bit of phoenix imagery when we're going into like wings and like rising from the ashes and like having a second life or a rebirth or whatever, right? And then it softens out the light, right? We don't have as harsh of shadows on the ground anymore. It's like breaking out of the cage. We have all of this kind of like ruin behind him, which feels almost clawing your way out of the wreckage or whatever. But we also don't have to focus on this performance on the ground anymore because he's risen above that. Really well put together, like designed. Again, I don't know how much Yeosang himself had to do with this, so definitely let me know down in the comments of everyone who was involved in like actually putting this together. But just like the staging of it is so good, and I love that it feels like a stage. It feels very performance as opposed to like having a bunch of different scenes. If you go to like Slide to Me, and again, I'm only making comparisons to the ones I've already seen before, but that was like us going through like different scenes and like sets, right, of that music video, whereas this feels like we've set up a stage and we're changing the like set of it, but it's still like on the same stage for the performance to be like a key part of how we're expressing the story. And I love that. See, even this, we have them like lined up, right? These like parallel lines containing him. Anyway, his facial expressions are so good too. Like tilting his head to look up at us is a far more aggressive performance than here. And the switch in, I love that too. Ooh. Ooh, wait. Okay, even this pause. Can we look at the silhouettes? Ugh, I know that I'm interrupting. Okay, if you don't like pausing, you shouldn't be on my channel. But I love that we have this like more warm lighting here, right? We got all the whites and stuff to diffuse the lighting with all the drapes that are happening here because it's a bit of a more gentle performance. I love, again, like the facial expressions that we're getting from him, like the intensity of having your head like slightly tilted down but looking up, the intensity of that. There's a little bit more of this defiance to that particular position as opposed to one of the parts where he was looking down, right? The camera was farther down and he was looking down at it. The difference of that, and even when he was like leaning back, right, we have the like hand to help support him with that move. There's something about that move that is like intentionally, I don't know, a little bit like reckless, or I don't know, intentionally open yourself up to like vulnerability, if that makes sense, because it is something you need an assist for. It feels almost hanging over the edge of like a cliff, right? Like the adrenaline of the risk of that. Does that make sense? As opposed to an actual risky move in a choreography where you're doing like lifts and like things where there's going to be like more kind of liability things to like a performance. And I don't mean that in this case, because it seems to be like a perfectly like stable move that he's doing, but the imagery of that, of leaning back, he's putting himself in opposition to the rest of the dancers, right? Because they're all on one side of him, even though he only needs the one assist, right? And someone could have been supporting him on his back or something, right? They could have all crowded behind him and been support if you wanted to make that move safer in terms of just like choreography. But instead, we're getting them all on the opposite side of him. And yes, he's getting that assist with the hand, but he's doing the rest of the move on his own. He doesn't have anything to support him. So it feels like this kind of intentionally leaning into some of that adrenaline, that risk, that like vulnerability of, I'm going to do something on my own. I'm going to be like in opposition. And again, that's all going back to the rest of the imagery with this song, which I think is so good. And then we have the, right where I was pausing, we had the shift into the red lighting with some great balance there. His silhouettes are so good. And that was so perfect for when we had the harsh lighting on the floor, to be like literally his shadow doing the choreography with him. And all of the, if you go into like shadow and ego and id and stuff, right, like incorporating kind of those concepts into the other imagery that is more like mythological leaning in the song, I think is also really good. I'm trying to catch like everything, and it's like the fan in me, the one who's just so excited and like proud to see like a whole performance that's just Yeosang. But then there's like performer in me, the person who used to do stuff on stage and like critique people and do like direction stuff for stage performances, that I'm just like, ooh, that was a really good decision. Ooh, and they pull him up. Ooh, I love that too. Ooh. Ooh. Okay, I wanted to let that have its moment. First off, him in general. Dang. Like, how are we doing? Yeosang biases, I'm including myself in that, because even though I have given up having a specific bias in ATEEZ, let it be known that I've been a fan of Yeosang for a very long time in my journey of ATEEZ. How are we doing? Because now going into more technical stuff, I love that we have this mixture of like really smooth, graceful movements. Like he has a really good shoulder and like chest movements that are happening that are really smooth and put this little bit of, not quite a groove, but it's soft, like smooths out. I don't want to say soften necessarily, because I feel like that kind of takes away some of the intensity, even though maybe technically that's what he's doing, but it just smooths out some of the edges of the performance and adds like a certain grace to the dance. But then we have all these really harsh movements too, these more aggressive moves. I really like that we have all these kind of closed movements. There's a lot of leading with the elbow of these movements as well, which is a little bit more aggressive in general. Like the elbow just feels like a more aggressive part of the body to be like leading a movement with, especially when he's holding them up around his head. It feels defensive, right? To lead that move with the elbow around like head level. And he's also closing off his body language in some of it too, where his arms, his hands are closing in around his head and his torso, that again feels defensive and closed in. I'm assuming, I'm putting it my prediction now, that at some point in the performance we're going to get something wider, we're going to get something more grand in the performance, because we started on the ground, right? We started with him literally like legs crossed, like curled in on the ground, even like him blocking his face in some of the movements, and we get a little bit of that where he's framing his face but he's also partially covering it. And now we're getting him standing, but there's this defensiveness in the way that he's keeping his body language closer to him. So I'm assuming at some point we're going to get something a little bit more open as the song kind of picks up, and then we get some more confidence to it. And I love with the red lighting of that like fire, again in contrast to the cold colors of the blue lighting before. Again, this kind of phoenix rising from the ashes imagery, an ember still sparking even when there's this kind of destruction around him. And again, even this, the shadows, and again, none of the shadows of the backup dancers block his, right? And we're getting again this kind of like parallel with him, this mirror happening. Just so well done. Wait. Just personal reasons, we're gonna go back. I love that too, the like shout kind of thing. See, that feels more aggressive. I love the point down on the beat too. Ooh, I know I'm pausing at the same time. I'm also noticing we have a lot of moves where he's made these rigid hand movements along his arms, like we had before, the kind of move right up his body with the hands that were like earlier on in the verse or pre-chorus. And then there we have almost this like clawing, almost like at his arms. Again, him trying to escape something, like clawing at him, trying to pull him down, something like antagonistic. It feels like, even though it's his hands, it almost has this feeling of something pulling at him, right? And we have all this kind of, again, like pointing downwards. We're still grounded at this point in the performance. See? More rigid hand shapes. Definitely there. Ooh, I love the almost conductor though. Love that. Wings. Stir. Okay, first off, you gotta warn me before you're just, again, mental health check. How are the Yeosang biases doing? Because I'm not okay. I think the only thing is saving me is that I have also a performer part of my brain. I say as I literally triple for my words because my brain is buffering. But the performer part of my brain is like, there's some cool things happening. Like one, literally, like I said, it feels like we have these kind of clawing at him kind of motions. And then we have this, I think we have it here where like the rest of this kind of like cloak falls because like he's pulled at, right, on this like piano moment, but we have him on the ground again, right? Like we had this moment of rising up and him having this moment of defiance, and then he's like on the ground again, which again, as a performer, being able to put all of the levels into an actual performance, I'm assuming there is a live, I'm pretty sure because I got links, I think, to all of their solo live performances that I still have to work through over on Patreon. But being able to do all of that in a performance, and I shouldn't be surprised that Yeosang would, because even all the way back at Pirate King, right, he was like committed to having to do floor work and stuff like that. So just points to the fact that he's going to have to translate this to an actual stage at some point. Again, using the silhouettes we have, even though we're walking through the set with all of the like draped fabric, torn fabric, because we have this strong backlight for it, it's focusing more on like his silhouette, like walking backwards. I think that's very symbolic too. He's facing forward, but he's falling back, given like the lyrics of all that. He's going further back into the set of this stage. Like before he got all the way forward and was able to perform down stage center, right? And then we have this part where he's literally falling back into the set of the stage. I think that's very symbolic. And then having the dancers around him becoming kind of part of the environment and reaching out to him. I loved the kind of mimed hand pulling at him without actually like making contact. It was, again, this idea of forces like trying to drag him down, forces around him, again, like clawing at him, pulling at him. And then we had them all surround him there near the end as well, and him being like stuck by them like holding him in place, as opposed to, again, like I was saying with the move before where he was leaning back, instead of being like a supportive move, it feels more like being trapped. It feels more being like ensnared by something. All really beautifully done. Like he loses his wings and he's on the ground again. Yeah, that like done. He's almost like reaching out for it too. Ooh. I know I'm interrupting, okay, but like couple of things. One, again, when he was going back through the dancers, we had before where he was controlling the movements. We had that kind of conductor move. We also had some of the other ones where he was controlling the wings at the very beginning. So him leading the movement of that. And then in this one where he's moving back, I feel like we have some of the movements. I can't entirely see it because of the framing of the shot. It seemed like we had some of the dancers like doing movements on the edge of the formation, and he was like moving his head to follow those movements, because then we have when they're pulling at him, he's like moving to try and catch up with those movements. So it's the backup dancers that are controlling his movements, right? As he's like falling back into this set, he's going backwards and losing that control and like autonomy, the power that he had before, and being controlled by other forces around him. And then here we have again those like kind of glitchy movements, and again defending like his head, his face, something defensive about that move that he's doing here. Again, like especially with the face, you think of like identity, you think of the way that you're perceived by other people, right? Like a lot of times you like a mask is a way of hiding some of your intention. It almost feels like he's trying to defend his identity in these movements of blocking his head. Obviously some of that is just defensive. Like the head is a very important part of being a living creature, so it's very instinctual to block your head in general, so it lends to some of that defensive feeling. But also because this is a dance performance and it's all like interpretive and intentional from a performance standpoint, I also think that it's very interesting that in this performance of this song, Yeosang feels like he's protecting his head, his face, the form of like his identity, the way that he is perceived by the world, right? That he's trying to maintain some protection or control over that. Also the fact that we switch scenes and he's like leaning back and like pushed up to his feet, I think is also quite interesting. He fell down forward onto his knees at the beginning of this verse, and then at the end he's like rising forward from leaning back. So I think that is also really interesting, like imagery of the parallel of that, again, like this kind of mirror that's happening. I love that little hydraulic on that stop as well. Wider movements there too. Arm extensions. Ooh. Ooh, before we get into that dance break here, okay, one, we got some more like full arm extensions, again, like wider movements happening here. We also, like, we didn't have the neck movement before where he was like the like elbow and then like he had his hand near his neck. Sorry, as I like lose my voice because I'm talking too much, but in line with that, it feels almost like before, like again, I was talking about him defending like his face or like his head, his, again, like identity. Also like him having a hand in his neck is almost like not being able to speak. We have to let it out louder as part of the lyrics literally here, but like that idea of almost like having to defend like the right for him to have a voice to speak for himself. And we have less of that here as he's like building up some of what's happening. And that move where like they were all like the dancers were facing the opposite direction. They're facing upstage and holding him back by like his arms, right? Again, and him breaking out of that. I love the symbolism, like the switch up of him like literally being held back and breaking out of it and moving forward anyway, back to the like downstage. And he's not alone when he breaks forward either. Facial expressions. Ooh, I love that move too. Ooh, that was a good little like chest isolation there. Sir. Okay, we're gonna go back for something. I don't even know where I want to go back for, but okay, one, I think it's important that when he does break forward out of that being held back, he's not breaking out of it and like walking forward by himself, which I think is also symbolic of some of the stuff in the song and like having all these other voices like choir sounding in it as well. I love that we have almost this movement where he's like on the drum beats, where we have this kind of drum movement that's happening, which feels almost like this rallying cry again of this military feeling as well. And again, having that kind of like slower chest isolation almost feels like this breathing, right? This like proof that you're still alive, this proof that you're still fighting, this proof that you're still your own creature, right? Really loved that. Again, facial expressions are so good on this. Some of it is just like you get to the end of a performance, and this is obviously like filmed, so it works a little bit differently, but that usually means that you've got more tiring days behind you, because at least with the live performance, you got to go through it once and then you can move on. Whereas with filming stuff, you're doing like the same parts over and over again. If you're doing a more high intense thing, you're gonna be making some facial expressions just in general, because you're like, I have to do this again. We all get tired, but his facial expressions are really good in this, especially for the image of I'm going to keep fighting. It doesn't matter if I'm tired. It doesn't matter if like I get knocked down again. Like we had the imagery of him like falling to the ground again, and he still got up, right? Like the imagery of him continuing to get up, continuing to fight, continuing to go forward, right? So putting in some of that like aggression, but also like exhaustion in the way that he's performing, like lends to that of I'm going to keep going anyway. I think that's all really good. And then we have some movements where he's again controlling the backup dancers, like he's in charge of the movements, and then we have the like hand at the end of it's a very like subtle move, but there is something very like commanding about it, and it feels like he's the one in control there. See right there, love that dun dun. And I like that he breaks out at this one move as well. See, he's controlling them, and then here, breaking out of it again. And the dancers leave, too. I mean, unless there's something else that I should be knowing about, I think it's just y'all telling me to subscribe like I'm not already. Please. Incredible performance. Like, I already was like, it's gonna be like the drama of this song. Of course it is. I didn't know if I was going to get like a whole performance video, though. I wasn't sure what I was going to get, but I'm very happy to have gotten something so performance forward. I think for someone like Yeosang as well, what a waste to not let him have that moment and to let him showcase all of that. I think it's a very like simple setup, but it works so well. Again, since it feels like a stage, like it feels a very like intentional performance. And again, I think the symbolism of him like falling backwards into kind of the set design of the stage and then like fighting his way forward again to like center downstage is so symbolic of him like getting to have that moment, that spotlight at the end. The dancers leave and he's on his own. It's I think like the only time he's completely by himself on the stage. We have some focus on him, right, where he was like on the ground, but he wasn't actually in the set by himself. You can see that there are performers behind him. Yeah, I'm like, I think he always has these backup dancers. Like, he always has them being there as like part of the performance. Even when he's on the floor, they're still like around him. And then we have this moment at the very end where he gets to be on the stage by himself. He gets to have his own moment, right, of like just him on the stage. And the warm lighting, as opposed to the blue lighting we got at the beginning where he was like laying on the ground. That was the only time we got to see him by himself, was at the very beginning when he was like laying on the ground with all the smoke and everything around him. Whereas this is him on his feet and with the like warmer lighting. There isn't any kind of like king or god imagery necessarily in this moment, but it is like an independence and an autonomy to it that I think is also very important to like the story of the song. There's probably like a bajillion other things that I could talk about, like just being a fan wise, the fact that he looked incredible the whole time, and I'm gonna put in a box that he was shirtless and just leave it there because I don't have anything I would like to share with the class on that one. But just like performance, like choreography, the set design, the lighting, the backup dancers did an incredible job as well. Like, I think that they did such a good job of almost being the set of a bunch of this, like the ensemble, almost like choir feeling. There's so much. I feel like there's like so many other things that I could talk about, and I can't put it all into one video, and I'm sorry, but definitely let me know down in the comments some of your thoughts and everything, because I would love to nerd out about this more. Just incredible. Like, again, I don't even know how to summarize how I feel other than like I have so many things I probably didn't say, thought about, but I'm also trying not to be here for a full-length feature film commentary on this one performance. Not that y'all seem to mind that I'm a little long-winded in my videos, because literally every time I'm like, I'll just do an ATEEZ video, and then an hour later I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I still have things that I want to say? Here we are. But so good. Like, I think it was such a good showcase of what an incredible performer he is. I think that it was already a great showcase of like his vocals and everything, but getting to add in the performance element of it. And again, I love that it was just a performance. I love that it was a focus on his dancing and this like mixture of the more like lyrical performance and like the use of the shadows and the dancers with him, and again the facial expressions, the performance that he was able to put into this of the character that he was playing, this kind of defiance and exhaustion mixing together. I think he did such a good job. I could spend so much longer talking about it, but I will have mercy on both myself having to edit this video and you having to watch it. But like I said, definitely let me know down in the comments your thoughts and everything. Let me know about like the credits of people involved in putting this all together, because I think it was just really well done in terms of cinematography too. So many things. I'm gonna leave it there before I get too hyper fixated on it. I hope you enjoyed watching that along with me. You can click this playlist to go into my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so next time I post an ATEEZ reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.